led by architect and director Daniel Burnham.
And Daniel Burnham?
Lighting up over 100,000 bulbs.
Dead. American history. Imagine walking into a theater. The actors argue. Democrats, Republicans, opposites. But backstage, they're all shaking hands, and the script they're reading, it wasn't written yesterday. It was drafted decades ago at a place called the Council on Foreign Relations, a place where presidents are made, not elected. Since 1921, the CFR has built itself as a think tank, but in reality it's a factory, producing foreign policies, advisors, and presidents. Listen carefully as we drop the names. Pay attention to who was already a member before becoming president. Franklin D. Roosevelt. CFR ties as Assistant Navy Secretary before running for president. Harry Truman, surrounded by CFR architects during his rise to power. Dwight Eisenhower, confirmed CFR attendee before 1952, not just advised, immersed. John F. Kennedy, cabinet packed with CFR members, not officially one himself, but a man encircled by the club. Richard Nixon, a longtime CFR member as a congressman before ever running. Gerald Ford, CFR member before VP, promoted up the ladder very quickly. Jimmy Carter, CFR attendee and student at the briefings, before 1976, groomed, you decide. George H.W. Bush, CFR Director, 1977 through 1979, then VP, then President, almost like a promotion plan. Bill Clinton, invited to CFR roundtables as Arkansas's governor, a governor today and a president tomorrow. Barack Obama sat at CFR foreign policy briefings as a senator, not officially listed, but present. Joe Biden, decades of CFR ties through Senate Foreign Relations, and a key advisor, a pipeline president if there ever was one. Do you see the pattern yet? When the CFR writes the resume, the Oval Office signs off. Behind it all stands David Rockefeller, the architect of the network, his confession. Some even believe we're a part of a secret cabal. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I'm proud of it. Proud. Not ashamed, proud. Because the CFR doesn't just advise presidents, it produces them. Bilderberg, another Rockefeller-inspired project. Trilateral Commission, Rockefeller again. Bohemian Grove, where future president rehearsed in the shadows. Same name, same faces, same script. The CFR calls the press partners. Media moguls sitting at its table. Arthur Schwarzenegger, New York Times. Anderson Cooper, CNN trained at CIA. NBC, CBS, Time Magazine, all intertwined. Rockefeller thanked them for decades of silence. We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time magazines, whose directors attend our meeting and respected their promises of discretion. So much for free press. At Bohemian Grove, they burn effigies. At Bilderberg, they burn transparency. At the CFR, they burn democracy itself. By the time you cast your vote, both candidates have already been seated at the same CFR tables, briefed by the same power brokers, funded by the same bankers. The past isn't dead, it's waiting. They erased history, they wrote your future, and they choose the presidents long before you walked into a booth. From the moment man learned to speak, there have been those who twisted words into chains. The first lie wasn't told on television, it was whispered in the garden. For centuries, rulers understood. Control the story, and you control the people. Scrolls, books, pulpits, printing presses, radios, screens. The tools changed, but the hands holding them never did. And in 1921, those hands gave themselves a name, the Council on Foreign Relations. When the CFR was born after World War I, It wasn't just bankers and diplomats who showed up. The founders invited editors, publishers, and journalists because shaping foreign policy means shaping public opinion. Walter Lippmann, CFR founder and father of modern journalism, coined the term manufacturing consent. Edward Mandell House, Wilson's advisor connected to major papers. Henry Luce, founder of Time, Life, and Fortune, CFR member. Arthur Schwarzenberger, publisher, New York Times CFR member. William Paley, CBS president and CFR member. The biggest headlines of the 20th century weren't independent. They were fed straight from CFR's boardrooms, right to your breakfast table. 1940s World War II coverage. American support of the war wasn't spontaneous. It was printed, broadcast, sold. Then came television, moving pictures, trusted faces. Edward R. Murrow, CBS, CFR member. Walter Cronkite, the most trusted man in America, CFR affiliate. Barbara Walters, ABC, CFR member. Dan Rather, CBS anchor, CFR member. Every night, these voices didn't just report history, they rewrote it in real time. Vietnam, the Cold War, assassinations, civil rights, every major event came packaged with a narrative. And if a president resisted the machine like Kennedy, he didn't last long. Fast forward, you think you have more choices today? Think again. ABC News, George Stephanopoulos, Juju Chang, and Martha Rudess, CFR ties. NBC Universal, Cesar Conde, CFR board member. Andrea Mitchell, CFR. CNN, Forded Zakara, CFR board member. Jake Tapper, CFR. Kitty Pilgrim, you guessed it, CFR. CBS, PBS, and NPR. Leslie Moonves, Dan Rather, Judy Woodruff, and Maria Lazan, all CFR members. Fox News, Rupert Murdoch. Left wing, right wing, two wings of the same bird. Every headline, every war, every crisis birthed at the same table. From the garden to Gutenberg, from newspapers to Netflix, one truth remains: the mouthpiece of the empire never stops. You trusted them to tell you what happened, but all they gave you was the story they were paid to tell. We have been fooled since the first breath we took. Since 1921, a quiet council has pulled invisible strings. You don't vote for them, you don't see their meetings, but their fingerprints are on wars, on treaties, on entire economies rising and entire nations falling. They have taken sovereignty and replaced it with global corporation. They have taken leaders and turned them into mouthpieces. They have taken journalism and carved it into a tool of silence. They have taken entire regions of the world and redrawn their borders and backrooms, while the public clapped unaware. And what's worse, they've taken generations of us and taught us not to ask who took it. Since 1921, the Council of Foreign Relations hasn't just shaped history, they've erased it. And what's left behind isn't freedom, it's an illusion.
If you enjoyed this polished retelling of progress and civilization,
and if you're questioning what's really been buried under the official story,
then don't forget to like the video.
Share it with the ones who aren't afraid to ask why.
Follow and subscribe for new episodes uncovering forgotten marvels.
And the history that still yaps beneath the ruins.
Because the past isn't silent, it's yapping.